It was Christmas Eve. Snow was falling so hard that it blocked all the heat-detecting beams. In Jack's earpiece, a commander said quietly, "We lost her signal." Nobody saw her leave. Nobody heard the last gunshot. Only the enemy soldiers fell one by one in silence, hunted by the darkness itself. When the sun came up, the battlefield was empty. There were no bodies, no footprints, just a short message sent back. Target killed. Ghost has left the battlefield. The valley swallowed all the light. Corporal Nathan Price pressed his gloved hand against the frozen rock and felt nothing. There was no shaking, no warmth, just a screaming wind carrying snow sideways across the mountain ridge. "Command, this is Sierra 17. His voice broke through the headset. "We're trapped. I repeat, we are trapped." Only static answered him. Behind him, for soldiers huddled in what used to be a shepherd's hut. The roof had fallen in months ago. Now it was just stone walls and hope. Staff Sergeant Derek Moreland checked his watch. It was 10 o'clock at night. Christmas Eve had come in the worst way possible. "How long until they pick us up?" Private First Class Jordan Hayes asked. His lips were turning blue from the cold. "There is no pickup," Lieutenant Rachel Carson said without looking up from her frozen radio equipment. "The storm stopped everything. Drones, helicopters, even satellite communication is dying." The wind screamed even louder. 3 clicks to the northeast. Enemy soldiers had dug into bunkers built during a war that nobody remembered anymore. But those bunkers still had heat, still had bullets, and still had clear views of every path into this valley. Sierra 17 had walked right into a perfect trap. "We need to move," Moreland said. "Move where?" Carson's breath made clouds in the cold air. "North is open ground with no cover. South puts us in range of their bombs. East and west are covered with landmines from the 1990s. Price closed his eyes. Somewhere back at headquarters, people who study maps were drinking coffee and pretending they could help. But nobody could help. Not through this storm. Not against those enemy positions. Hayes spoke quietly. "What about Ghost?" The question hung in the frozen air. Moreland shook his head. "Ghost doesn't exist. Command talks about her on secret channels." Hayes insisted. "I've heard them." "You've heard stories." Moreland cut him off. "Campfire tales to help new soldiers sleep better." Carson stopped working on the radio. Her eyes met Price's. She had heard the stories too. Price had heard more than just stories. 6 months ago, at a military base outside Kandahar, a warrant officer had gotten drunk and talked. He talked about an operator who had rescued 3 reporters from a building in Mosul. He talked about how she had walked past 16 guards, cameras, and a kill team without setting off a single alarm. When the reporters reached friendly territory, they asked where their rescuer went. Nobody knew. The warrant officer had laughed a bitter laugh. "That's why they call her Ghost. Because the dead see her, but the living don't." Price pushed the memory away. "We hold our position until the storm stops," Moreland decided. "Save ammo, save body heat. Nobody goes outside." But the storm was not stopping. Outside, you could only see about 3 meters ahead. The temperature hit minus 20 degrees and kept dropping. The wind shaped the snow into forms that looked like men, like vehicles, like rescue that would never come. At 11 o'clock at night, Carson finally got a short message through. "Command knows where we are," she said. "They're activating something called Protocol Phantom." Moreland went very still. "Say that again." "Protocol Phantom is active." Price had never heard those words before. Hayes looked confused. "What's Protocol Phantom?" Nobody answered because Carson's face had gone pale and Moreland was staring at the radio like it had just told them they were going to die. Price leaned closer. Sergeant Moreland's voice came out flat and dead. "It means they're sending her." "Ghost." The wind howled. And somewhere in the white silence beyond their broken shelter, something was already moving. The briefing room at Fort Bragg was underground and officially did not exist. Colonel James Reeves stood in front of a screen that showed nothing but static and spoke to officers who were not allowed to know what they were really hearing. "In 2019, we lost a 4-man team in Jakarta," he began. "They were held in a warehouse by a rebel group. 17 enemies, no way out. We were getting ready for a full attack." He clicked the remote. The static did not change. At 3 a.m, all 17 enemies went down. Silent weapons. No alarms went off. The team walked out. When we asked them what happened, they said a woman appeared in their cell, cut their ropes, and told them to follow the north wall. Another click, still static. They followed. They lived. When they turned to thank her, she was gone. The warehouse had one entrance. Video cameras showed nobody going in or out between 10 at night and 5 in the morning. Major Christina Okoye raised her hand. Sir, are you saying? I'm saying we looked at the video frame by frame. We found nothing. Reeves's jaw got tight. But we did find 17 dead enemies and 4 living soldiers who swear a ghost saved them. The room was silent as everyone took this in. Captain David Frost spoke carefully. Does this operator have a code name? She has a call sign. Reeves paused. Ghost. That's not normal procedure. Normal procedure is what we use for regular soldiers. Reeves pulled up another file. Ghost is not regular. In 4 years of known missions, nobody has taken a picture of her face. Nobody has recorded her voice clearly enough to study it. She exists in reports as a single line. Target killed. Ghost left unseen. Okoye leaned forward. How is that possible? We have satellites. Heat-detecting cameras. She moves during weather that blinds our systems. Reeves brought up weather reports. Jakarta had rain so heavy it knocked out half our cameras. Mosul had a sandstorm that made it impossible to see. Tbilisi had fog so thick that local people called it biblical. Frost studied the patterns. She waits for nature to hide her, or she brings it with her. The room went quiet. Reeves clicked to the next slide. It showed death reports, rescue numbers, and success rates that did not make sense by normal math. In 73 known missions, Ghost has never lost anyone she was protecting, never missed a target, and never been caught. He paused. And she has never been seen by any enemy who lived to tell about it. What about friendly soldiers? Okoye asked. Friendly soldiers see what she allows them to see. A shadow, a voice, sometimes just a result of her work. Reeves pulled up a written report. A Ranger platoon leader in Syria reported this. We were surrounded. 8 enemies had us in their sights. Then they just stopped shooting. They started screaming. They started running. When we checked the area, we found 6 bodies. 2 survivors had no memory of what happened. All they said was the storm had eyes. Frost read the report carefully. This was during a dust storm. Every mission happens during some kind of natural cover. Reeves pulled up satellite pictures of the current situation, which brings us to tonight. The screen showed a mountain valley buried in white. Sierra 17 is stuck in blizzard conditions. Visibility is 0. Temperature is minus 22 degrees and dropping. Enemy force of about 40 soldiers is dug into strong positions. Okoye understood the situation. Regular rescue is impossible. Correct. So you're sending Ghost? Reeves nodded. Protocol Phantom was activated at 11 o'clock tonight. Frost looked at the storm on screen. How does she even get to them? I don't know. How does she rescue 5 soldiers through enemy territory when you can't see anything? I don't know. Sir, with respect, Frost stood up. We're sending a single soldier we can't identify, can't track, and don't understand into an impossible situation and hoping for a miracle. Reeves met his eyes. Captain, I've stopped hoping for miracles. Ghost doesn't deal in miracles. She deals in results. He pulled up the list of past missions. 73 missions. 0 failures. She's never lost anyone. There's always a first time. Not with her. Reeves's voice cut like ice. When Ghost enters a battlefield, the enemy doesn't know they're already dead. They just know something is wrong. The shadows move wrong. The wind sounds wrong. Their friends disappear and they can't explain how. He clicked to a final image. It was a Christmas card, hand-drawn and simple. It showed a snow-covered battlefield with a single set of footprints going in. No footprints coming out. A lieutenant in Kabul found this on his desk 3 years ago, the day after Ghost rescued a squad from an ambush. Reeves's voice got softer. Inside it said, if you're reading this, you made it home. Merry Christmas. Gee. The room sat with that thought. Okoye broke the silence. Why all the secrecy? Why not just say she exists? Because the moment we say she exists, we limit her. Reeves closed the files. Ghost exists in the space between what's proven and what's impossible. The enemy can't prepare for what they don't believe exists. And our people can't give away what they don't know. Frost looked at the storm still raging on the screen. What if she doesn't make it? Reeves turned off the monitor. Then we'll never know. Because if Ghost fails, he walked toward the door, nobody will ever find her body. The briefing room went dark, and somewhere in the mountains, the white silence was already breaking. The place where she started climbing was a cliff that nobody sane would try to climb. Ghost checked her climbing harness one final time. No electronics, no tracking devices, nothing that could send a signal or leave a digital trail. Just rope, steel, and gravity. She climbed down into the storm. The wind tried to tear her off the rock. She let it push her, then used the movement to swing toward the next anchor point. Move with the storm, never against it. At 200 meters down, the temperature dropped another 5 degrees. At 300 meters, the cliff disappeared into white nothing. She kept going down. The pack on her back carried 40 pounds of equipment, only the most important things. Weapon, bullets, medical supplies. Everything else had been left behind. Weight was the enemy in snow this deep. Her breathing stayed controlled and measured. Each breath out was timed to make as little vapor cloud as possible, so she would not give away her position. At 400 meters, her feet touched snow. She unclipped from the rope and pulled it down. It slithered up into the darkness, erasing any sign of how she got there. Now she was alone. No one watching over her. No pickup plan. No backup radio frequency if things went wrong. Ghost pulled out a compass. Not GPS, because GPS sends signals. Compasses do not. 3 clicks northeast through land that would kill most soldiers before they cover half a kilometer. She started walking. The snow reached up to her thighs. Each step took all her strength. Lift leg, push forward, plant foot, repeat. The storm turned every meter into a fight. Normal rules said to find shelter, save energy, and wait for better weather. Ghost's rules said the weather would never get better. The storm was her friend. The storm made her invisible. She moved through the white silence like a shadow crossing midnight. At the 1-click mark, she stopped. There was a heat signature ahead. Faint, probably a guard checkpoint. She crouched and waited. The wind shifted and carried voices to her. Never getting out of this valley. Should have stayed at base. 2 enemy soldiers, freezing and miserable, watching a path they thought nobody could use. Ghost went around them the long way, adding 400 meters to her route, avoiding contact completely. If they see me, I failed. At the 2-click mark, her body started shutting down, fingers losing feeling, toes going numb. The cold was a hunter that never stopped chasing. She found a rock that stuck out, crawled under it, pulled out a chemical heat pack, and crushed it inside her jacket. 5 minutes of rest. No more. While she waited, she checked her weapon. The rifle had been changed for extreme cold. Parts were stripped down. The moving pieces were coated with special oil. The bullets were chosen to work in this temperature. She had fired this weapon in conditions worse than this, but never while trying to save 5 lives. The heat pack died. She came back out into the storm. At 2.5 clicks, she saw the first enemy position. It was a bunker built into the hillside. Concrete reinforced, built during a war decades ago. Through her scope, she counted 6 enemies. They rotated guard duty. 1 was on a heavy machine gun. The others were inside where it was warm. The bunker controlled the entire southern path to Sierra 17's position. Ghost memorized every detail. Where they could shoot from, where they could not see, how often guards switched. Then she moved on. The mission was not the bunker. The mission was 5 soldiers who thought they were already dead. At 2.8 clicks, the ground became deadly. A slope of loose rocks hidden under fresh snow. 1 wrong step would start an avalanche that everyone would see for miles. Ghost studied the angle, figured out how to spread her weight, and decided. She crossed. Each step was placed with perfect care. Weight spread across her entire foot. Movement so slow it looked like she was meditating. The rocks held. At 3 clicks, she reached the ridge above Sierra 17. Below, the ruined shepherd's hut was a dark spot against all the white. She could see the heat from 5 bodies huddled inside. Still alive, Ghost checked her watch. It was 2 a.m. Christmas Day had arrived. She took her rifle off her shoulder and began going down. Nobody saw her coming, because ghosts do not make shadows in the dark. Senior Lieutenant Viktor Kovalov poured himself another cup of tea and watched the storm through the thick glass window. "This weather is a gift," he said in Russian. His second-in-command, Sergeant Dmitry Petrov, nodded from the corner where he was cleaning his rifle. "The Americans are trapped. They can't see anything. Their technology is useless." The bunker complex had been built during the Soviet era. 12 connected positions carved into the mountain, designed to survive bombs, air attacks, and time itself. Kovalov had 40 men spread across those positions. They were warm, fed, and had plenty of supplies. The Americans had 5 men who were cold, alone, and doomed. "When should we attack them?" Petrov asked. "No rush." Kovalov smiled. "Let the storm do our work. By morning, there'll be 2 frozen to fight. We'll collect them like firewood." In position 3, Corporal Alexei Sokolov stamped his feet and complained about guard duty. "Why do I always get midnight watch?" he said to Private Yuri Makarov. "Because you're young and stupid," Makarov replied without looking up from his card game. Sokolov looked through their small window into the whiteness. Nothing moved. Nothing could move in this weather. "Do you think they're still alive?" he asked. "The Americans? Probably. For now." Makarov played a card, but not for long. Nobody survives this cold without shelter. Sokolov thought about that. 5 men freezing to death in a broken hut. It seemed like a cruel way to die. "Maybe we should let them give up," he said. Makarov laughed. "Kovalov wants to make an example. Show what happens when Americans come into our territory. Still, Christmas Eve seems wrong. Since when do you care about Christmas?" "My grandmother always said." Makarov held up a hand. "You hear that?" Sokolov listened. "Wind. Snow. Nothing else." "Hear what?" "I thought." Makarov frowned. "Nothing. This storm plays tricks." In position 7, the heavy machine gun spot, Sergeant Boris Volkov was telling everyone his Christmas plans. "When this is over, I'm taking 3 days off," he said. "Real food, warm bed. Maybe visit that blonde girl in the village." His helper, Private Mikhail Fedorov, snorted. "That blonde won't remember you. She'll remember my money." They laughed. Outside, the storm kept attacking. Fedorov looked at the heat-detecting scope next to the gun. "Anything moving out there?" Volkov checked. Trees bending, snow drifting. Same as last hour. "Americans must be freezing. Probably already dead." Volkov lit a cigarette. "I almost feel sorry for them. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong war." The cigarette glowed in the darkness. Fedorov studied the scope again. "That's weird." "What?" "Heat signal on the northeast ridge." Just for a second, Volkov looked. "Nothing now. Probably an animal. Deer wolves." In this storm, animals are stupid. They went back to their routine. Watching. Waiting. Sure they were in control. Back in the command bunker, Kovalov checked the screen showing all positions. All spots showed green. No movement seen. No radio signals caught. The Americans were completely cut off. "Sir," Petrov said, "weather report shows the storm getting stronger. Another 12 hours at least." "Perfect." Kovalov marked his map. "We'll attack them at sunrise. Give the storm more time to weaken them. What if they try to run?" "They won't. Look at this land." He pointed to the map. "North is an open killing field. South has our positions. East and west have landmines. They're in a box with no way out." Petrov studied the situation. "They must know they're going to die." "Of course they know." Kovalov's smile was cold. "That's what makes it interesting. Watching hope die before the body does." Outside position 3, Sokolov made his rounds through waist-deep snow. The wind cut through his winter clothes. The temperature was brutal, but at least he could go back to warmth after his watch. The Americans had no warmth to go back to. He almost felt sorry for them. Almost. He turned back toward the bunker and stopped. The snow at his feet looked wrong, disturbed, like something had passed through recently. But that was impossible. Nobody could move in this storm. He knelt down and touched the mark in the snow. Fresh. Very fresh. "Makarov," he called into his radio. "You see anything on heat sensors?" "Static." Then negative. "Why?" "I've got tracks out here. Recent. Probably yours from the last patrol. These aren't mine. Wrong direction. Wrong spacing." A pause. Animal. Sokolov studied the tracks more carefully. They were already filling with fresh snow. In a few more minutes, they would be invisible. Maybe, he said, but the wind howled. When it died down, the tracks were gone. Sokolov stood alone in the white silence, suddenly feeling exposed. Makarov, I'm coming back in. Roger. He hurried toward the bunker entrance. Behind him, the snow kept falling, and somewhere in that white curtain, something watched. Ghost had been still for 40 minutes, not moving, barely breathing, becoming part of the land. The enemy soldier who found her tracks had missed her by 3 meters. She had watched him through her scope, watched him puzzle over the marks in snow, watched him go back inside, confused. Now she waited for his heartbeat to slow down, for the alert level to drop back to normal. Patience was a weapon. Cold was a weapon. The storm was the greatest weapon of all. She moved. Position 3 was 200 meters to the northeast. 6 enemies with overlapping shooting areas with positions 2 and 4. Normal rules said to avoid them. Find a gap. Slip through. Ghost rules said there are no gaps. Only opportunities. She crawled to within 100 meters. The snow helped. Each movement matched with gusts of wind that erased sound and motion. Through her scope, she studied the bunker's design. Soviet-era construction. Heavy, overbuilt, but with weaknesses she could predict. The air vent, the ammunition storage door, the wires that connected all the positions. She memorized everything. Then she picked her first target. A guard posted outside, visible only as a heat blur in her scope. He stamped his feet and clapped his gloved hands, suffering through his watch. Ghost settled into her shooting position. The rifle nestled against her shoulder, cheek pressed perfectly, breathing controlled. She waited for the wind. It came, a gust strong enough to rattle the bunker's outside parts. She fired. The silenced weapon made almost no sound, just a soft hiss, swallowed by the storm. The guard dropped. Ghost was already moving. She had fired from one position, but moved to another before the bullet even reached its target. A trick she had perfected over dozens of missions. Never be where the enemy expects. Inside the bunker, someone noticed. Sokolov, report. No answer. Sokolov, confirm your position. Static. Ghost heard the confusion through the radio frequency she had been listening to. Heard the edge of worry creeping into voices. Someone check on him. A door opened. Light spilled onto the snow. Another target came out. Ghost fired again. The second enemy fell beside the first. Now the confusion turned to alarm. Contact. We have contact. Where? Unknown. Sokolov and Makarov are down. Did you see the shooter? Negative. Nothing on heat sensors. Ghost had already moved to her third position. A dip in the snow 30 meters from where she had fired before. The bunker erupted with activity. Lights came on. Weapons aimed into the darkness. They were shooting at nothing. Because Ghost was nowhere they expected, she watched them through her scope. Counted for more enemies visible. 2 more probably inside. Kovalov's voice cut through the chaos. Cease fire. You're wasting ammunition. The shooting stopped. In the sudden silence, the storm howled. Get heat sensors up. Full sweep. Ghost had already buried herself in snow. Wrapped in a heat-blocking blanket. Body temperature hidden. Signature invisible. She watched the heat sensor sweep past her position. Nothing, sir. Just storm interference. Check the bodies. 2 enemies moved toward where Sokolov and Makarov had fallen. They moved carefully, weapons ready, eyes scanning. They never looked up. Ghost had climbed, using the bunker's outside ladder. Now she was above them. Looking down, she dropped a flashbang grenade. The explosion was white thunder. The 2 enemies stumbled, blinded and deafened. Ghost fired twice more. Clean, precise. Then she was gone, sliding back into the storm before their bodies hit the ground. Inside the bunker, Kovalov was screaming orders. Lock it down. Full defensive positions. Nobody outside. Sir, we have 4 dead. I can count. Where's the shooter? We don't know. Heat sensors show nothing. That's impossible. Sir, the storm doesn't kill people. Find this shooter. But finding Ghost was like trying to catch smoke. She had moved to position 2. Different approach, different angle. This bunker had 3 enemies, all inside, all scared. She could hear them on the radio. Position 3 is under attack. 4 down. No visual on shooter. This is position 2. We're locked up tight. Nothing moving out here. Ghost attached a small bomb to their door. Then she moved to cover, 50 meters away, behind a rock sticking out of the ground. She set off the bomb from far away. The door blew inward. Smoke and broken pieces flew everywhere. The enemies inside shot back. Blind, panicked, emptying their guns into storm. Ghost waited until they had to reload. Then she fired 3 shots through the smoke. Silence. Position 2 went dark. Kovalov's radio exploded with reports. Position 2 is hit. Repeat, position 2 is static. Position 4 report. Sir, we can see position 2. It's gone quiet. What do you mean quiet? No response. No movement. Ghost was already going around position 4. She moved through the blizzard like she was born in it. The cold did not slow her down. Not being able to see did not blind her. She had trained for this. Spent years learning to use nature as a friend. The store was not something in her way. It was where she belonged. Position 4 had 5 enemies. Alert, weapons pointed outward. But they were looking for a normal threat. A squad. An attack team. Not a single soldier who moved like wind through snow. Ghosts used their own searchlight against them. When they swept it across the open ground, it created a cone of light that ruined their night vision. She timed her approach to move between sweeps. By the time they realized she was close, she was already inside their defensive area. The first enemy died without seeing her. The second turned and fired wildly. Ghost put him down. The remaining 3 tried to fall back, tried to get back into the bunker. She was faster. 3 shots, 3 seconds. Position 4 fell silent. In the command bunker, Kovalov stared at his screen in shock. Positions 2, 3, and 4. No response. 11 men gone. In less than 15 minutes. What are we fighting? Petrov whispered. Kovalov had no answer, because the storm had eyes, and they were watching. The operations center at Fort Bragg was underground chaos. Colonel Reeves stood in front of multiple screens, showing nothing but white static and weather information that made experienced officers worried. Last contact with Ghost? He demanded. 1:45. Major O'Coy replied. Brief message confirming she started the mission. Then nothing. Satellite. Blind. Storm is causing too much interference. Heat sensors? Negative. Too much scatter in the air. Reeves checked the mission clock. It was 2:30 in the morning. Ghost had been silent for nearly 3 hours. Captain Frost approached with new information. Sir, we're picking up more radio traffic from the enemy positions. They're falling apart. Meaning something is hitting them hard. Reeves felt a cold satisfaction. Ghost is working. Or Sierra 17 is being attacked, and we can't help them. Frost's voice was tight. Sir, we have no eyes, no communications, no proof of anything. We're blind. Ghost works blind. That's the point. That's crazy. That's why it works. Reeves pulled up old data. Every mission before this followed the same pattern. We lose contact. Enemy forces report strange activity. Then silence. And if the pattern breaks, it won't. How can you be sure? Reeves turned from the screens. Because Ghost has never failed. Not in 73 missions. Not once. O'Coy interrupted. Sir, we're getting bits and pieces from enemy command. They're reporting dead and wounded. Multiple positions hit. Numbers unclear. Communications are falling apart. She paused. They sound terrified. Frost studied the messages. One soldier's doing this. One soldier who knows how to use land, weather, and fear to multiply her power. Reeves pointed to the enemy positions on the map. She's not fighting them the normal way. She's breaking their teamwork, making them fear the storm itself. That's psychological warfare. That's Ghost. The mission clock kept moving. It was now 3 a.m. Still no contact. Reeves felt tension building in his chest. He believed in Ghost, believed in her abilities. But belief did not change the fact that 5 soldiers were dying in that valley, that the storm was getting worse, that even Ghost might have limits. Sir, A communications officer looked up. We just caught a distress call from the enemy commander. He's asking for backup right away. From who? Anyone. He says they're under attack by... The officer paused. His words are hard to translate. Something that isn't human. The operations center went quiet. Frost broke the silence. He thinks he's fighting a ghost. Let him think that. Reeves's voice was hard as iron. Fear is a weapon. Ghost knows how to use it. Okoye pulled up heat scans from the last satellite pass before the interference got too bad. Sir, look at this. Heat signatures in the valley. But they were scattered, not following normal patrol patterns. Show me. She made the image clearer. See here? Multiple heat signals moving in random patterns. Like they're searching for something they can't find, because Ghost is invisible to their sensors. No. Okoye's face was troubled, because she's controlling the fight, drawing them into positions she chooses. It's not a gun battle. It's a planned elimination. Reeves studied the data with growing respect. Ghost was not just completing the mission. She was conducting a symphony of violence in the dark. At 3:30 in the morning, another message was caught. Enemy commander is ordering retreat from forward positions. He wants everyone to group together at the main bunker. Frost looked at Reeves. That's a tactical mistake. If he pulls back, Sierra 17 will have a clear path out. Reeves allowed himself a small smile. Ghost is hurting them, controlling their decisions without them knowing it, making them more afraid of the storm than of running away. The operations center took this in. One soldier in impossible conditions, reshaping a battlefield through pure psychology and perfect aim. At 4 in the morning, the enemy communications went completely silent. What does that mean? Frost asked. Reeves stared at the dead air. It means Ghost is finishing her work. Or it means she's been caught. No. Reeves's voice was absolute. If Ghost were caught, we'd know. There would be a firefight, call for help, something. He pointed to the silent screens. There's nothing. Exactly. When Ghost goes to work, there's no noise, no drama, just silence. And then it's over. Okoye checked the mission clock. If she keeps going at the speed, the rescue window opens in 90 minutes. Can we get helicopters ready? Weather is still too bad, but there's a small break in the storm predicted at 6 in the morning. If we get a helicopter in position early, do it. Reeves made the call. Get a Black Hawk ready. Our best pilot. Tell them they're flying into hell to pick up angels. The orders went out. In the operations center, officers who had doubted Ghost was real were now watching her reshape a battlefield they could not even see. Frost approached Reeves quietly. Sir, what happens if she doesn't make the rescue window? She will. But if she doesn't? Reeves met his eyes. Then Ghost stays a ghost. And we never speak of this mission again. The clock ticked toward dawn. And somewhere in the white silence, a legend was being written in blood and snow. In the ruined shepherd's hut, Price jerked awake. Something had changed. He could not name it, could not point to a specific sound or feeling. But the air felt different. You feel that? He whispered to Moreland. The sergeant was already awake, eyes watching the darkness beyond their shelter. Yeah, what is it? The shooting stopped. Price listened. Moreland was right. For the past hour, they had heard scattered gunfire from the enemy positions, explosions, shouting. Now there was silence. Carson checked her radio equipment. I'm getting bits and pieces. Russian. Lots of panic. What are they saying? She listened carefully. They're pulling back, grouping together. Something has them scared. Hayes looked confused. Pulling back from what? We're trapped. We haven't moved. Not us. Moreland stood slowly, checked his weapon. Something else is out there. Ghost? Hayes asked. Nobody answered, because they were all thinking the same thing. Maybe. Price moved to the broken window, looked into the storm. The blizzard was still raging. He still could not see anything. But the enemy's searchlights that had been sweeping the valley all night were gone. No lights, no movement, nothing. This could be a trap, Moreland said. They want us to show ourselves. Or, Carson countered, they're really in trouble. From what? 5 frozen soldiers who can barely hold a rifle? From her. The word hung in the cold air. Moreland shook his head. Ghost is a myth. A story command tells to. The radio crackled. Not static. Not Russian. Something else. A voice. Female. Calm as midnight. Sierra 17. This is Phantom Actual. I have your position. Stay inside. Do not fight. Do not show yourselves. Rescue in 30 minutes. Price's heart pounded. Who? Phantom Actual. This is Sierra 17. Moreland grabbed the radio handset. Identify yourself. Silence. Then the voice spoke again. The less you know, the safer you are. Trust me. Stay inside. The transmission ended. The 5 soldiers looked at each other. That was her. Hayes breathed. That was Ghost. We don't know that, Moreland insisted. Then who else? Command said Protocol Phantom. That voice just said Phantom Actual. Do the math, Sergeant. Carson was already thinking. If she's real, if she's actually out there, how is she? An explosion cut her off. Close. Maybe 200 meters away. Then another, farther away. Then gunfire. But not aimed at them. Aimed into the storm. They're shooting at nothing, Price said. Or something they can't see, Carson whispered. Through the radio, they heard enemy voices screaming. Heard orders falling apart into chaos. Heard the clear sound of a disciplined force breaking apart. Moreland checked his watch. 30 minutes until rescue. She said 30 minutes. If we can trust her, do we have a choice? They did not. Outside, the battle that was not really a battle continued. Explosions, gunfire, screaming, all of it far away, all of it confused, like an invisible blade was moving through the enemy positions. At 5 a.m, Carson picked up a new message. It's the enemy commander. He's begging for help. Says they're under attack by special forces. How many does he think we are? Hayes asked. Carson listened. He's saying at least a platoon. Maybe more. Multiple attack points. Coordinated assault. But there's just one of her. He doesn't know that. Price understood. Ghost was not just killing targets. She was creating the illusion of a much larger force. Every shot from a different position. Every attack from a different angle. One soldier appearing to be everywhere at once. At 5:15 a.m, the gunfire died down. The valley fell silent again. Moreland whispered, "Is it over?" Before anyone could answer, their radio crackled again. Sierra 17. Phantom Actual. Route is clear. When you leave your position, follow the western ridge. 15 minutes to pickup point. Move now. Wait. Moreland keyed the handset. What about enemy forces? Minefields. Handled. Trust me. Move now. The transmission ended. The 5 soldiers looked at each other. This could still be a trap, Moreland said, but his voice lacked confidence. Sarge, Price pointed outside. Do we stay here and freeze, or do we trust a ghost? Moreland made the decision. Pack light. Combat load only. We move fast. Hayes, you take point. Price, rear security. Carson, stay on communications. Let's move. They came out into the storm and found a miracle. The western route that had been covered by 3 enemy positions was clear. The searchlights were dark. The bunkers were silent. Hayes led them forward. Every step felt like walking through a dream. They passed position 4. The door was open. Bodies inside. No sign of the shooter. They kept moving. At the 200-meter mark, they found proof of a firefight. Bullet casings. Blood in the snow. But no bodies. Just drag marks leading into the darkness. She's cleaning up, Carson whispered. Removing evidence. They kept moving. At the 500-meter mark, Hayes stopped. Contact ahead. Everyone dropped down, but Hayes was laughing. It's the rescue helicopter. I can hear the blades. Through the storm, the distant thump of a helicopter. They ran. At 5:28 a.m, they reached the pickup point. A small clearing. A Black Hawk helicopter coming down through the blizzard like salvation itself. The crew chief waved them on board. Let's go. Let's go. They piled in. Counted heads. 5 soldiers. All alive. Moreland grabbed the crew chief. Did you see her? Ghost? Phantom Actual? The crew chief looked confused. See who? We just got coordinates for pickup. Nobody told us about a 6th passenger. But she... The pilot's voice cut through the headsets. We need to go now. This weather is closing in fast. The Black Hawk lifted off, Price pressed against a window, scanning the clearing below, looking for any sign of the soldier who had saved their lives. He saw nothing, just snow and darkness and the storm swallowing everything. She's not coming with us, he realized. Moreland heard him. What? Ghost. She's not getting rescued. She's still out there. They searched the valley as the Black Hawk climbed, searched for heat signatures, for movement, for anything. Nothing. Sierra 17 was going home, but Ghost had disappeared into the white silence, and nobody knew where. The Black Hawk was 3 minutes gone when Ghost came out of the snowbank where she had been buried. She had watched the rescue, watched 5 soldiers climb aboard, watched them fly to safety. Mission complete. Now came the hardest part, getting out. Normal procedure would be to call for her own rescue, but Ghost did not follow normal procedure. She never left the battlefield the same way twice, never used patterns someone could predict. The moment she became predictable, she became vulnerable, and vulnerability meant death. She checked her equipment. Most of her bullets were used up. The rifle was ice cold but still worked. Her body was running on reserves she had built over years of training, but she was alive, and the enemy thought they were fighting a platoon. Let them think that. She began her withdrawal. Not west, where Sierra 17 had left. Not south, toward friendly territory. Those routes were obvious, might be watched, might have landmines. Instead, she went north, deeper into enemy territory. It was the last direction anyone would expect. The storm was weakening slightly, visibility improving from 0 to maybe 50 meters. Not perfect, but good enough. Ghost moved through land she had memorized during her approach. Every rock, every dip in the ground, every fold in the landscape that could hide her. She was 2 clicks north when she heard the helicopters. Not friendly. Russian search patterns. They were looking for the platoon that had destroyed their positions. Ghost dropped to the ground, buried herself in fresh snow, controlled her breathing, became invisible. The helicopters passed overhead, heat sensors sweeping, searchlights cutting the darkness. They found nothing, because Ghost had already learned to beat heat imaging. Special blanket, snow insulation, body position to reduce heat signature. The helicopters moved on. She waited 20 minutes, making sure they were not coming back. Then she continued north. At the 4-click mark, she reached a river, frozen solid, covered in snow. Perfect. She walked on the ice, leaving no tracks on the rocky banks, using the river as a road that erased her path. For 3 clicks, she followed the water. At dawn on Christmas morning, she reached the tree line. Real cover. Finally, she stopped, assessed her situation. Her body was shutting down, hypothermia creeping in. She needed heat, food, rest, but not yet. She was still in the danger zone, still within enemy reach. She pushed deeper into the forest. At 8 in the morning, she found what she needed, a hunter's cabin, abandoned, half collapsed. Good enough. She checked for traps, for cameras, for any sign this place was watched. Clean. She entered. Inside, she allowed herself to collapse. Not sleep, never full sleep, just a controlled rest. 20 minutes. Weapon beside her, senses still alert. When she woke, she checked her hidden radio. The emergency beacon she never used unless absolutely necessary. She pressed it twice. A brief pulse, a signal that meant alive. Successful, do not look for me. Then she destroyed it. No more electronics. No more signals. From here, she walked out on her own. The escape took 3 days. Moving at night, hiding during the day, eating snow and whatever she could find. She crossed 2 border checkpoints by going around them, avoided roads, avoided people, avoided anything that could create a record of where she had been. On the 3rd day, she reached a small village in friendly territory. She looked like a refugee, dirty, exhausted, forgettable. She bought a bus ticket with cash that had no traceable numbers, rode to a larger city, bought another ticket, then another. Each trip erased her trail a little more. For days after Christmas, she walked into a safe house in Prague. The handler there looked up in shock. Ghost, we thought. You thought nothing. Her voice was flat. I was never here. But the mission? Check your reports. Sierra 17 rescued safely. That's all that matters. What about your debrief? She handed him a USB drive. Everything that matters is there. What I saw, enemy positions, recommendations. She paused. I'm taking a week off. Then I'm gone. You never saw me. The handler knew better than to argue. Ghost climbed the stairs to the safe house bedroom, took off her gear, showered for the first time in a week. The water ran black with dirt and old blood. She stood under the heat until she stopped shaking. Then she slept for 18 hours straight. When she woke, there was a message on the secure computer. From JSOC, from Reeves. It contained 2 words. Thank you. Ghost deleted it. She packed her bag, left the safe house, disappeared into Prague's morning crowds. Within an hour, there was no proof she had ever been there. Within a day, the safe house would be cleaned out and shut down. Within a week, even a handler would start to wonder if she had really appeared. Because that is how Ghost operated, in the space between proven and impossible, where legends are born and facts die. The classified after-action report for Operation Phantom Christmas was prepared on the 27th of December by Colonel James Reeves of the Joint Special Operations Command. The classification was top secret. The executive summary stated that at 11 o'clock at night on the 24th of December, Sierra 17's 5 soldiers became stranded in enemy territory during extreme weather conditions. Normal rescue was deemed impossible. Protocol Phantom was activated. The operational timeline recorded that Protocol Phantom was authorized at 11 o'clock at night. Last confirmed contact with Phantom actually occurred at quarter to midnight. Enemy forces reported being under attack at 2:30 in the morning. Enemy communication stopped at 4:30 in the morning. Sierra 17 was rescued successfully at 5:28 in the morning. There was no further contact with Phantom Actual after 5:32 in the morning. The results showed that all 5 Sierra 17 soldiers were recovered alive and unhurt. Estimated enemy casualties were 23 killed and 11 wounded. The enemy force was destroyed. The enemy believed the attack was conducted by a platoon-sized group. The actual attacking force remained classified. The tactical observations noted that enemy positions were eliminated using a combination of extreme weather use, perfect marksmanship, psychological warfare, and unusual movement patterns. The attacking soldier demonstrated exceptional ability in zero-visibility operations, heat signature hiding, multiple position attacks, and independent decision-making. The assessment concluded that the operation succeeded despite conditions that would prevent normal special forces from even trying. Success factors included operator comfort in extreme weather, ability to use weather as a weapon, tactical patience and perfect timing, and complete independence from normal command structures. The recommendation stated that Protocol Phantom procedures remain effective. No changes were recommended. Continued secrecy was deemed essential. The operator status noted that Phantom Actual left the area independently. Current location was unknown. This was standard procedure for this type of asset. No further follow-up was required. The conclusion stated that Sierra 17 owes their lives to a soldier they never saw. Enemy forces were defeated by an attack they never understood. The mission was accomplished with 0 friendly casualties. This outcome matched previous operations conducted under Protocol Phantom. The final notes recorded what Sierra 17 soldiers reported when they were interviewed. They reported hearing a female voice on radio. They reported following instructions through enemy territory. They reported finding cleared routes where none should exist. They reported seeing no direct proof of their rescuer. When asked who saved them, Sergeant Moreland replied, "I don't know her name. I never saw her face. But whoever she is, she's the reason we're having this conversation." Private Hayes added, "Command called her Ghost. That's the only name I need, because ghosts protect the living." The Personnel Actions section noted that no awards will be given to Phantom Actual per standing rules. No public acknowledgement of this operation would be made. No records beyond this report would document Phantom Actual's involvement. The archival instructions stated that this report would be sealed for 50 years, or until Phantom Actual's identity was publicly revealed, whichever occurred first. Only personnel with Protocol Phantom clearance could access it. The report was signed by Colonel James Reeves of the Joint Special Operations Command. Colonel Reeves added a handwritten note at the end of the report. He wrote that in 23 years of service, he had worked with the best soldiers in the world. Rangers, SEALs, Delta, SAS. Ghost was something else. She was what happens when you take skill, experience, and commitment, then add something he could not measure, something that made her willing to walk into hell alone and walk out carrying 5 souls. He did not know her real name. He did not know her face. He did not even know if Ghost was one person or a series of soldiers using the same call sign. What he knew was this: 74 missions, 0 failures, 0 soldiers lost under her protection. She was the angel in the storm, the shadow that killed your enemy, the miracle you cannot explain. And the moment they tried to make her normal, they would lose what made her effective. So they left her alone. They gave her the impossible missions, and they trusted, because when Ghost went to work, people came home. That was all that mattered. Lieutenant Marcus Webb stood in the same briefing room where years before officers had questioned whether Ghost was real. Now, he was the one asking questions. Is it true, sir? Colonel Reeves, older now with gray hair, studied the young officer. Is what true? Lieutenant Christmas Eve, Sierra 17. Ghost. Webb leaned forward. Did it actually happen? Reeves was silent for a long moment. What do you think happened? I think 5 soldiers were stranded in a blizzard. I think they got out alive. And I think the official report says good weather conditions helped them escape. Webb pulled out a tablet. But I've talked to Sergeant Moreland. Talked to the others. They tell a different story. What story? They say a woman pulled them out. Say she cleared a path through enemy positions like they weren't even there. Say she disappeared before they could thank her. Reeves stood up, walked to the window. Lieutenant, I've learned that some stories are more important than facts. The men of Sierra 17 believe they were saved by Ghost. That belief matters more than what any report says. So she's not real? I didn't say that. Reeves turned around. I said belief matters. He paused. Do you know what those 5 soldiers did after they came home? Webb shook his head. They each sent a Christmas card to JSOC headquarters. Hand-drawn, amateur, but full of heart. Reeves opened a file. Inside, they all said the same thing. Thank you for sending the angel in the snow. Did Ghost receive them? I don't know. Ghost doesn't have an address. Doesn't have a file. Doesn't officially exist. Then how? Webb struggled with the question. How does she operate? How does she survive? How does she achieve the impossible? Reeves smiled sadly. Those are the wrong questions, Lieutenant. The right question is this. Do you believe people like her exist? Webb considered this. I want to believe. Then believe. Reeves closed the file. Because somewhere out there right now, a soldier is trapped, surrounded, running out of time, and somebody is going to save them. Somebody who moves through darkness like it's home. Somebody who will never take credit, never seek recognition, never ask for a medal. Somebody like Ghost? Maybe Ghost trained them. Maybe Ghost is a philosophy, not a person, a standard we try to reach. Reeves moved toward the door. Either way, the result is the same. People come home. Webb stood up. Sir, if Ghost is real, how do I find her? You don't. She finds you. Reeves paused at the door. But only when you need her most. Kandahar, present day. The sandstorm hit at sunset. Visibility dropped to 0 in minutes. Staff Sergeant Kelly Price, no relation to Nathan Price from years before, was leading a 4-person team through enemy territory when the world turned brown. We're blind, her radio operator said. Can't see anything. Hold position. Kelly checked her map. They were 2 clicks from the target, 2 clicks from safety, and surrounded by enemies who knew this land better than any GPS. The sandstorm howled. Kelly's radio crackled. Not her team. Different frequency. Emergency channel. A voice. Female. Calm. Staff Sergeant Price. This is Overwatch. I have your position. Stay low. Don't move. Help is coming. Kelly's heart raced. Overwatch. Identify yourself. No answer. Just the storm. And the growing feeling that they weren't alone. Fort Bragg Operations Center. Major Christine O'Coy, promoted since the Christmas mission, watched the satellite screens with concern. Sandstorm over Kandahar. Team is stranded. Can we rescue them? Reeves asked. Negative. Storm is too bad. Nothing can fly. Reeves studied the tactical display. For soldiers. Surrounded. Blind. He made a decision. Activate Protocol Phantom. Okoye looked at him. Sir, are you sure? We haven't used it in. I'm sure. Get the authorization. The protocol was activated. Somewhere, someone received a message. Someone who moved through storms like breathing. Okoye watched the screens. Sir, how do we know she will? Major, in all the years we've activated Protocol Phantom, how many times has Ghost failed? Okoye checked the records. 87 missions. 0 failures. Never, sir. Exactly. Reeves settled into his chair. So we wait, we trust, and we prepare for the impossible. Kandahar, 2 hours later. The sandstorm was weakening when Kelly Price heard movement. Not her team. Something else. A shape in the dust. Moving with purpose. Kelly raised her weapon. Friendly. A voice called out. Female. Calm. Lower your weapon. Staff Sergeant. Identify yourself. The shape came closer. A woman covered in desert camouflage. Face wrapped. Eyes in behind goggles. Call me Overwatch. I'm here to get you out. Where did you come from? Does it matter? The woman looked at Kelly's team. You have wounded. Corporal Jenkins. Leg wound. The woman knelt beside Jenkins. Checked the wound with practiced skill. Applied fresh bandages. He'll make it. Follow me. Stay close. Stay quiet. Wait. We don't know who you. You know enough. The woman stood up. Either trust me and live, or stay here and die. Your choice. Kelly looked at her team. Looked at the desert that wanted to kill them. Made the choice. We follow. The woman led them through the sandstorm like she could see through solid walls of dust. Every turn was perfect. Every decision correct. When enemy patrols passed within meters, she guided them into cover. When the ground became deadly, she found a safe path. At the pickup point, a helicopter was waiting. Impossible. But there, Kelly's team climbed aboard. She turned to thank their guide. The woman was gone, vanished into the dust like she had never existed. Kelly searched the landing zone. Where did she go? The crew chief shook his head. Where did who go? You're the only ones we saw. The woman. Overwatch. She led us here. Ma'am, our sensors showed only your team. Kelly looked at her soldiers. They had all seen her. All followed her. But now there was no trace. No footprints in the sand. No heat signature on the helicopter systems. Nothing. Just 4 living soldiers who shouldn't be alive. Fort Bragg. Days later. Kelly Price stood in the same briefing room where others had stood before. Colonel Reeves listened to her report. And you never saw her face? No, sir. She was covered. But she knew exactly where to go. Like she had scouted the entire area. Did she tell you her name? Just Overwatch. But, Kelly hesitated. But, Corporal Jenkins said something when she was treating his wound. He said she moved like a ghost. Reeves nodded slowly. Thank you, Staff Sergeant. That will be all. Sir, who is she? Someone who saved your life. That's all you need to know. After Kelly left, Reeves pulled up the classified files. 88 missions, 0 failures. He added a note. It said, Kandahar Sandstorm, for soldiers rescued. Standard Protocol Phantom results. Then he closed the file. Somewhere, Ghost was already moving to the next mission, or resting, or training, or simply existing in the space between visible and invisible. Reeves would never know, but he knew this. When the impossible became necessary, when normal solutions failed, when soldiers needed a miracle, Ghost would be there, silent, unseen, unstoppable. The legend lived, not in reports or medals, but in the hearts of those who came home. Joint Special Operations Command released an internal memorandum. It was classified and sent to all Special Operations Task Force commanders. The subject was Protocol Phantom Operational Guidelines. The classification level was top secret with special access required. The memorandum explained what Protocol Phantom is. It is a last resort rescue and attack protocol using a specialized soldier with unique abilities. This soldier operates independently of normal command structures and uses weather conditions to achieve goals that normal forces cannot. The memorandum also clarified what Protocol Phantom is not. It is not a guaranteed solution. It is not a risk-free option. And it is not a replacement for proper mission planning. The document listed when to activate Protocol Phantom. Commanders should only activate it when all conditions are met. First, normal rescue must be impossible. Second, soldier lives must be at immediate risk. Third, weather conditions must create an operational opportunity. And fourth, no other solutions can exist. The memorandum described what commanders should expect. They should expect minimal communication from the soldier. They should expect an unusual tactical approach. They should expect results that may seem unlikely. There will be no public acknowledgement, and the soldier will not remain for any interview. The document also described what commanders should not expect. They should not expect real-time updates on the soldier's position. They should not expect normal after-action reports. They should not expect the soldier to work with standard units. And they should not expect the soldier to be available on demand. The memorandum emphasized a critical understanding. The soldier known as Ghost operates in a manner fundamentally different from standard special operations procedures. Commanders activating Protocol Phantom must accept three things. First, they must accept limited visibility. They will not know where Ghost is or how she operates. Second, they must accept zero control. They cannot direct Ghost's tactical decisions. Third, they must accept complete trust. They must believe in results without seeing methods. The memorandum listed success metrics since Protocol Phantom's creation. There have been 88 activations. There have been 0 principal losses. There have been 0 soldier compromises. And there have been 0 public exposures. These numbers speak louder than any tactical analysis. The memorandum addressed psychological preparation. Soldiers rescued under Protocol Phantom frequently report certain experiences. They report confusion about how the rescue occurred. They report an inability to describe their rescuer clearly. They report belief that survival was impossible. And they report long-term psychological impact from the experience. The memorandum noted that this is normal. It is expected, and it is not a cause for concern. The memorandum discussed what it called the legend factor. Ghost has become a myth within the special operations community. This mythology serves a tactical purpose. Enemy forces fear what they cannot understand. Friendly forces maintain hope in desperate situations. And operational security is enhanced by uncertainty. The memorandum warned commanders not to attempt to demystify Ghost. The mystery itself is an operational advantage. The memorandum offered guidance for commanders considering activation. It told them to ask themselves 4 questions. First, have I tried all normal options? Second, am I prepared to trust completely? Third, can I accept results without understanding methods? Fourth, am I willing to never speak of this operation publicly? If a commander answers no to any of these questions, they should not activate Protocol Phantom. The memorandum concluded with final guidance. Ghost exists in the space between confirmed and impossible. She operates where normal rules fail. She achieves what textbooks say cannot be done. A commander's job is not to understand her. A commander's job is to make the hard call when their people need her, and then to trust. Colonel James Reeves added a personal note. He wrote that he has been asked many times what makes Ghost special. The answer is not in her skill, though her skill is extraordinary. It is not in her courage, though her courage is absolute. It is in her commitment. Ghost operates alone because teams slow her down. She refuses recognition because fame creates vulnerability. She disappears after missions because anonymity is survival. She has given up everything. Name, identity, normal life, to be the angel in the storm. When you activate Protocol Phantom, remember this. You are not just calling a soldier. You are asking someone to risk everything for people she will never meet. That sacrifice deserves your respect, even if you never see her face. Especially because you will never see her face. The note was signed by Colonel James Reeves of JSOC, Arlington National Cemetery, Section 60. The funeral was small. Master Sergeant Derek Moreland, retired now with gray hair, stood among the graves of fallen warriors. He was not here for a funeral today. He was here for remembrance. Christmas Eve, Every year, same ritual. He walked to a specific grave. Section 60. Row 12. Grave 4472. The headstone read Specialist Nathan Price, U.S. Army, beloved son and brother. He was born in 2001 and died in 2031. Price had made it home from that Christmas mission, had lived 10 more years, had died in a training accident that had nothing to do with combat. Moreland knelt, placed a Christmas card on the grave. The card showed a snow-covered battlefield. Inside, he had written the same message he wrote every year. Still here because of her. We will never forget. DM. He stood, saluted, turned to leave. A woman was standing 10 meters away. Moreland had not heard her approach. She wore civilian clothes, jeans, winter coat, sunglasses despite the cloudy sky. Sergeant Moreland, she said quietly, do I know you? No, but I know you. Moreland studied her. Something familiar in her posture, her bearing. How do you know Price? I did not know him personally. She moved closer. But I know what happened that Christmas. What you all survived. Moreland's pulse quickened. Who are you? She smiled. Sad. Distant. Just someone paying respects. She walked past him. Stopped at Price's grave. Knelt. From her pocket, she pulled out a small object. Placed it on the headstone. A challenge coin. No unit markings. No symbols. Just a single word engraved. Phantom. Moreland stared. You are... I am nobody. She stood up, but Price mattered. They all matter. The ones who make it home. The ones who do not. Why are you here? Because it is Christmas Eve, and this is where I remember. She looked at the rows of graves. All of them. Everyone I brought home. Everyone I could not. Moreland felt tears in his eyes. Thank you. For that night. For my life. You already thanked me. Every year. Every card. She gestured to the Christmas card on Price's grave. I read them all. How? I have my ways. She turned to leave. Wait. Moreland stepped forward. At least tell me your name. Your real name. She paused. For a long moment, she was silent. Then she spoke. My name does not matter. What matters is that when the storm comes, someone is there. Someone who will not leave people behind. Is that what ghost means to you? Never leaving people behind? That is what it means to be human. She started walking away. The rest is just tactics. Moreland watched her disappear into the cemetery's rolling hills. We looked back at Price's grave. The challenge coin was gone. Like it had never existed. Like she had never existed. But the Christmas card remained. And the memory. And the knowledge that somewhere, someone was watching over those who fought in the dark. Kandahar, Christmas Eve, present day. The snow was wrong. Afghanistan did not get snow like this. Not in December. Not this heavy. But here it was, falling thick, turning the desert white. Staff Sergeant Kelly Price stood at her military base perimeter and watched the impossible weather. Freaky, her corporal said. Like the climate went crazy. Kelly did not answer, because she was remembering. The sandstorm, the woman who had appeared from nowhere, the rescue that should not have worked. And now Christmas Eve, the snow, her radio crackled. Not command, different frequency, a voice she recognized. Kelly, her heart stopped. Overwatch. Merry Christmas, Staff Sergeant. Stay warm. Stay safe. Where are you? Everywhere the storm goes. The transmission ended. Kelly scanned the white landscape, saw nothing, but she knew Ghost was out there, moving through the snow like breathing, watching over warriors who fought in impossible places. The legend lived, not in files or reports, but in the snow that fell on Christmas Eve, in the shadows that protected the living, in the belief that when darkness came, someone would be there, silent, unseen, unstoppable. Their stories soldiers tell. Late at night, when the watch is quiet, when the war feels endless, they talk about missions that went wrong, then somehow went right, about rescues that should not have worked, about a soldier who appears when hope is lost. They call her different names. Overwatch, Phantom, Angel, but most call her Ghost, because that is what she is, a ghost who hunts in storms. A shadow that kills your enemy before you know they are there. A legend that saves the living and terrifies the dead. Some say she is one person, a woman with skills beyond understanding. Some say she is many, a succession of soldiers carrying the same call sign, the same commitment. Some say she does not exist at all, just a story, a myth, a shared dream born from stress and survival. But ask the men and women who came home when they should not have. Ask Sierra 17. Ask Kelly Price's team. Ask the 88 missions worth of soldiers who walked out of hell. They will tell you, Ghost is real, more real than reports, more real than medals, more real than doubt. Because when you are dying in the dark and the storm closes in and hope dies, she comes. You will not see her face. You will not know her name, but you will feel her presence. You will follow her path, and you will live. That is the only proof that matters. That is the only memorial she needs. Not monuments of stone, but warriors who came home, who held their children, who grew old, who remembered every Christmas Eve the ghost in the snow, the angel in the storm, the shadow who saved their life. And somewhere in whether that blind satellites and grounds aircraft, she is still there, still moving, still hunting, still bringing people home. One impossible mission at a time, forever, until the last warrior falls, until the last storm ends, until the last person who needs her does not. But that day will never come, because war is endless, and storms are forever, and Ghost is eternal. The white silence swallows everything, but some shadows are darker than night. Some legends never die, and some debts can never be repaid, only remembered, only honored, only whispered in the dark. Thank you, Ghost, for the storm, for the silence, for bringing us home. The classified after-action report contained its final entry. The date was classified. The operation name was classified. The asset was listed as Phantom Actual. The mission status was marked as success. All principals were rescued alive. The asset status noted that she left the battlefield unseen. Casualties were zero friendly, and the enemy count remained classified. The notes simply said standard Phantom protocol results. One operator left a comment in the file. He wrote, "I still don't know if she's real, but I'm alive. That's real enough." The name of the person who filed the report was classified. The last line of the report read simply, "Ghost has left the battlefield." The report ended there. And in the white silence, where the snow falls eternal, where the wind howls forever, where darkness protects the righteous and hunts the wicked, a shadow moves, a weapon fires, an enemy falls, and somewhere, someone lives another day, because Ghost was there, is there, will always be there, in the storm, in the silence, in the space between impossible and done, forever hunting, forever saving, forever